Eli, I was just reading about someone who built a fully functional app in 2 hours without writing a single line of code. They called it vibe coding, and honestly, it sounds a bit like magic or a total disaster waiting to happen.
It's definitely a shift. The term was actually coined just over a year ago, in February 2025, by Andre Kropothy. He described it as a way to fully give in to the vibes and almost forget the code even exists. You aren't manually crafting functions, you're describing more vision in plain English and letting AI handle the implementation.
Right. So instead of being a scripter, you become an orchestrator. But for a business owner, is this just for quick prototypes, or can it actually help us ship real products?
That's the big question. While it can speed up development by 55%, there's a real risk of falling into a doom loop if you don't have a plan. So let's dive into how you can use this to build your next MVP without creating a technical mess.
So, thinking about that orchestrator role you mentioned, it sounds empowering, but also a little intimidating. If I'm not writing the code, what exactly am I doing? What does my desk look like in this new world?
It's a great question. You have to move away from the idea that a blank text editor is where you start. In 2026, the Vibe coding stack is built on tools that have true agency. You aren't just using an autocomplete tool anymore, you're using an AI native environment. Think of tools like Cursor or Windsurf. These aren't just places to type, they actually index your entire project. They create a semantic map of every file. So when you ask for a change, the AI understands how a button on the front end connects to a database on the back end.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a project manager who has memorized every single document in the company. But I've heard people mention using things like Claude or ChatGPT alongside these editors. Why do I need both?
That's what we call the two-model strategy, and it's a total game changer for businesses. You use a fast integrated model inside your editor, like Cursor's internal engine, for the quick stuff. Change this color or fix this typo. But when you have a big architectural problem, like how should I structure my database to handle 10,000 users, that's when you step out into a reasoning layer. You take that problem to a heavyweight model like Claude 3.7. It's the difference between asking a carpenter to drive a nail versus asking an architect to review the blueprints.
I love that analogy. So the fast model is the hands and the deep model is the brain. But what about the people who aren't even ready for a code editor? I mean, if I'm a founder with an idea on a napkin, do I really need to install a developer environment?
Not necessarily. That's where the zero to app builders come in. In the last year, tools like Bolt.new and Lovable have exploded. You literally type your idea into a browser, and it spins up a full stack app right there. Bolt actually runs a full Node.js environment in your browser window. It installs the packages, sets up the server, and shows you a live preview. For a business owner wanting to test a concept on a Tuesday morning, it's revolutionary. You aren't waiting for a dev team to get to it in 3 weeks, you're seeing it work in 3 minutes.
That sounds like a massive competitive advantage, but I'm guessing there's a catch to starting that fast. Like, does it get messy?
It can. The most common mistake is skipping the spec first phase. Since the AI is so fast, people just start shouting orders. Make a login page, add a checkout. But that leads to what developers call a Frankenstein codebase, a bunch of parts that don't actually fit together. The pro move is to spend 30 minutes acting like a lead architect first. Ask the AI to help you draft a technical specification document before it writes a single line of code. Tell it to outline the database schema and the folder structure. Once you have that master plan saved in your project, every future prompt becomes 10 times more accurate because the AI is following a map, not just guessing.
So, it's less about coding and more about curating context. If I give the AI a clear map and the right tools, it can actually build the house.
Exactly. And for the business owner, that means your primary skill isn't syntax, it's communication. You're defining the definition of done. You're saying, this is what success looks like, and letting the AI figure out the semicolons.
Okay, so I've got my stack ready and my master plan drafted. Now I'm in the thick of it. How do I actually talk to this thing so I don't end up with a mess? I've tried these tools before, and sometimes it feels like the AI is just ignoring me or giving me tutorial-grade code that doesn't actually work in the real world.
That happens because most people use beginner prompts. They say, make a user profile page, and the AI gives them the simplest, most basic version possible. To vibe code at a business level, you have to use production-grade prompts. You need to lock down the variables. Instead of just a profile page, you say, build a React profile component using TypeScript with strict typing. It needs to handle 3 specific error states: network failure, unauthorized access, and empty data. You're forcing the AI out of teaching mode and into shipping mode.
That's a huge distinction. It's like the difference between asking an intern to help with the mail versus giving them a 5-step SOP for processing invoices. But what if I don't know the technical terms? How do I describe a network failure state if I'm not a coder?
You describe the behavior, not the implementation. That's the vibe part. You say, when the user clicks save, if their internet is down, show a red toast notification that says try again later, and don't let the button be clicked again. The AI knows how to turn that behavior into code. A great framework to remember is context plus request plus format. First, tell the AI where you are. I'm working on the checkout page. Second, make the request. Add a discount code field. Third, dictate the format. Only show me the updated function, don't rewrite the whole file.
Oh, the format part is smart. I've definitely had the AI give me 500 lines of code when I only needed 5. It's exhausting to read through all that just to find one change.
It really is. And it's not just about saving your eyes, it's about context management. These models have huge context windows now. Some can handle hundreds of thousands of words, but they still suffer from lost in the middle syndrome. If you dump your entire project into the chat every time, the AI gets distracted. It might start hallucinating variables that don't exist. The secret to high-speed vibe coding is being aggressive with context. Only give the AI the specific file you're working on and the 1 or 2 files it connects to.
So it's about being a context curator. You're feeding the AI exactly what it needs for that specific task, then resetting.
Precisely. In fact, one of the best habits you can develop is the fresh chat rule. The moment you finish a feature, say you finally got the login form working, close that chat window and start a new one. If you keep the same thread going for 3 days, the AI starts remembering all your old mistakes and the bad code you already deleted. It gets confused by the ghosts of past iterations. Starting fresh ensures the AI is only looking at the current working state of your business.
That's fascinating. It's almost like the AI has a short-term memory that we need to clear so it stays focused on the goal. It really reinforces that idea of being the director of the project.
It does. And as the director, you also have to use negative prompts. Tell the AI what not to do. Don't use any external libraries for the icons. Don't use complex state management if a simple variable will work. By setting boundaries, you prevent the AI from over-engineering your project into something that's impossible to maintain. You're keeping the vibe clean and the business logic simple.
I'm thinking about the speed to market you mentioned earlier. For a small business or a startup, that's everything. If I can build an MVP in a weekend instead of 6 months, that completely changes the risk of starting a new project. But how real are these prototypes? Are we just talking about pretty mock-ups?
No, we're talking about functional software that takes real data and processes real payments. That's the big shift we've seen in the last year. Take someone like Jason Friedberg. He had an idea he'd been sitting on for 15 years. He used these tools and went from concept to deployed product in a single weekend. We're seeing a graduation workflow now. You prototype in an AI app builder like Lovable or Bolt to validate the idea, and then you graduate that code into a professional editor like Cursor when you're ready to scale.
So it's not just for toys. You can actually build the engine of a business this way. But what about the non-technical side of things? If I'm a marketer or a store owner, can I actually build something that helps my day-to-day operations?
Absolutely. In fact, internal tools are the low-hanging fruit for vibe coding. Think about all those manual tasks that eat up your team's time. Maybe you need a custom dashboard that pulls data from 3 different spreadsheets, or a tool that automatically formats customer reviews for social media. In the old world, you'd never hire a developer for that. It's too expensive. But with vibe coding, you can build that tool in an afternoon. Walmart actually saved 4 million developer hours by using AI tools for these kinds of tasks. They aren't just building big apps, they're automating the busy work that slows everyone down.
4 million hours? That's staggering. It's like giving every employee a tiny engineering team in their pocket. But I worry about the day 2 problem. You build this cool tool on a Sunday, it works great on Monday, but then on Tuesday, a user enters a weird email address and the whole thing crashes. How do we build resilience without being developers?
Then you tell the AI, okay, now build the database to support exactly what we just designed.
That makes so much sense. You're building the front of the house, so you know exactly how the kitchen needs to be set up. It feels much more manageable than trying to imagine the whole architecture at once.
It really is, and it allows for cheap experimentation. If you want to see how your app would look as a mobile-first site versus a desktop dashboard, it costs you $0 and about 10 minutes to have the AI regenerate the whole layout. You can test 3 different business models in a week. This compression of the discovery cycle is the real strategic advantage. The companies that are winning aren't just coding faster, they're learning faster. They're finding out what their customers actually want because they can show them a working version of it by Friday. And for the listener who's thinking, I don't have a big idea, just look at your own spreadsheets. If you have a spreadsheet that's too big or too complicated, that's your first vibe coding project. Tell the AI, build me a simple web app that lets me upload the CSV and gives me a searchable dashboard. That's a founder day project that creates immediate business value.
We keep talking about how fast this is and how anyone can do it, but it feels like there's a paradox here. If anyone can code, does that mean the value of knowing how to code is zero? Or does it mean something else is becoming more valuable?
It's a great question, and it's actually the opposite of what people think. We call it the vibe coding paradox. As the cost of generating code drops to zero, the value of architectural judgment and security mindsets skyrockets. Think about it. If I can build a house in 10 seconds by pressing a button, the person who knows where the load-bearing walls should go becomes the most important person on the site.
Right, because the AI will happily build a house with no foundation if I don't tell it otherwise. It's optimistic. It assumes everything is going to work perfectly.
Exactly. AI is an enthusiastic junior developer. It doesn't inherently understand technical debt. It doesn't know that the quick fix it just gave you is going to make the app impossible to update next month. That's why senior developers are actually more important than ever. Their role is shifting from typists to auditors. They're the ones looking at the AI output and saying, wait, this is going to cause a race condition when 2 people click this at the same time, or this doesn't follow our security protocols.
So, for a business owner, the goal isn't necessarily to replace developers, but to change how we work with them?
Precisely. You use vibe coding to get the first 80% done. The boring boilerplate, the basic UI, the standard data flows. That saves you a massive amount of money and time. But then you invest that saved money into a high-level architect to review the final 20%. You're hiring for wisdom, not WPM. One study from 2025 showed that 40% of junior developers were deploying AI-generated code they didn't fully understand. That's a ticking time bomb for a business.
That is terrifying. If I'm shipping code I don't understand, I'm basically rolling the dice with my customers' data.
You really are. And that's why human in the loop is the golden rule of vibe coding. You have to accept the liability, even if you didn't write the code. If you're taking payments or storing user data, you are the one responsible. You can't blame the AI when the vibe goes wrong. The best vibe coders are actually aggressive skeptics. They run the code, they try to break it, they ask the AI, what could go wrong here, and show me where the security vulnerabilities might be.
I like that. Ask the AI to be its own critic. Does that actually work? Can the AI find its own mistakes?
Surprisingly, yes. If you take a piece of generated code and prompt the AI with act as a senior security auditor and find 3 ways this could be hacked, it will often point out its own shortcuts. It's about forcing the model into a different persona. But ultimately, the judgment layer has to be human. You have to decide if the trade-offs the AI made are acceptable for your business. The AI might suggest a cheap way to build a feature that's slow or a fast way that's insecure. You're the one who has to say, no, we're going to do it the right way, even if it takes 5 more prompts.
You mentioned security, and I want to stay there for a minute, because this feels like the biggest risk for a business. If I'm vibe coding my new e-commerce site, and the AI accidentally hard codes my API keys or leaves a back door open, I could lose everything. How do we keep the vibe safe?
This is the most critical part of the playbook. There's a startling statistic from late 2025. About 45% of AI-generated code contains some kind of security vulnerability. AI isn't malicious, but it's trained on a lot of public code that was written before modern security standards existed. It might suggest a way to handle a database that allows for SQL injection, which is a fancy way of saying a hacker could trick your site into giving them your entire customer list.
That's a massive red flag. So if I'm not a security expert, how do I stop that from happening?
You have to build a security sandwich. Top layer, prompt hygiene. Never put your actual secrets like passwords or API keys into the prompt itself. Use placeholders like your API key here. Middle layer, automated scanning. There are tools now that are designed specifically to vibe check your AI code. They look for common patterns that hackers use. And the bottom layer, human review, especially for anything involving authentication, payments, or personal data. Those are the no vibe zones. You should never, ever let AI handle those three things without a professional human review.
No vibe zones. I love that. So keep the vibe for the pretty parts and the easy parts, but bring in the heavy hitters for the scary parts.
Exactly. And be aware of supply chain attacks. Sometimes the AI will suggest you install a specific package or library to solve a problem. But hackers have been known to create fake packages with names that look almost identical to real ones. If you blindly tell the AI install whatever you need, you might be inviting a Trojan horse into your business. Always ask the AI to list the packages it wants to use and why.
It's like being a manager who actually reads the expense reports instead of just signing them. You're looking for anything that looks off. What about the ethics of it? If the AI was trained on copyrighted code, am I at risk for a lawsuit?
That's a developing area, but the general rule in 2026 is human ownership. Most platforms have terms that give you the rights to the output, but you still have to be careful about regurgitation, where the AI spits out a large chunk of existing copyrighted code word for word. This is why incremental changes are better than giant rewrites. When you guide the AI through dozens of small prompts, the final code is a unique collaboration between your intent and the AI's generation. It's much less likely to be a direct copy of someone else's work.
So the vibe is actually your protection. The more you steer and iterate, the more unique and secure the code becomes.
Spot on. And for businesses, governance is the final piece. If you have employees vibe coding, you need to know about it. Shadow AI, where people build tools for work using their personal accounts, is a huge security risk. You want to provide your team with enterprise-grade tools that have built-in privacy. You don't want your company's proprietary data being used to train the next version of the model.
Okay, let's talk about the moment every vibe coder fears, the error message. You've been vibing along, everything looks great, and then suddenly the screen goes red. Or worse, the button just does nothing. No error, no explanation, just silence. What do you do when the AI gets stuck in a loop of giving you the same broken code over and over?
We call that the vibe doom loop, and it's where most beginners give up. They say, this thing doesn't work, and they walk away. But the secret to professional vibe coding is deterministic debugging. You have to stop chatting and start reporting. The AI can't see your screen. It only knows what you tell it. If you just say, it's broken, the AI is going to guess. And when an AI guesses, it hallucinates.
Right. It's like telling a doctor, I don't feel good, versus saying, I have a sharp pain in my left elbow when I lift this specific box.
Exactly. So the first step is to isolate the blast radius. Don't give the AI the whole project. Find the one function or the one file where the problem is. Then provide the exact stack trace. Copy that whole messy red error message from the console and paste it in. It looks like gibberish to us, but to the AI, it's a GPS coordinate for the bug.
I've actually tried that, and sometimes the AI gives me a fix that breaks something else. It feels like I'm playing a game of whack-a-mole.
That's the explain first rule. Before you let the AI write any new code, ask it to explain the root cause. Say, review this error, don't write code yet, tell me why this is happening. If the AI can't explain it, its fix is probably just a guess. But when you force it to reason out loud, it often realizes, oh, I was assuming this variable was a number, but it's actually a string. Once the explanation makes sense to you, then you tell it to generate the fix.
That's such a powerful mental shift. You're forcing the AI to think before it acts. It reminds me of the chain of thought prompting people talk about.
It is. And you should also look out for the phantom API. AIs are predictive. They assume libraries are logical. If a tool should have a feature called delete user, the AI will write that code, even if the actual library uses remove user. If your code is throwing an error that says function not found, 90% of the time the AI just made up a name that sounded right. You have to be the one to check the documentation or tell the AI, hey, verify the exact syntax for this specific version of the library.
So you're the fact checker. You're making sure the AI isn't just vibing its way into a fantasy world of imaginary code.
Precisely.
And if you're really stuck, use the two-agent tactic. Take the broken code to a different AI model, like moving from GPT-4 to Claude, and ask it, why did the other AI write this way, and why is it failing? Sometimes a fresh set of digital eyes is all you need to spot a subtle logic error. It's like getting a second opinion from a different doctor. And finally, checkpoints. Always use Git or commits. Before you ask the AI for a big change, lock in what's already working. If the AI destroys your project in the next 5 minutes, which happens, you need an undo button that actually works. Vibe coding without checkpoints is like climbing a mountain without a rope. One slip and you're back at the bottom.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's one thing that still bugs me. If I'm shipping an app that I didn't write, how do I know it's actually good? Not just it works on my machine, but it's built to last. I don't want to wake up 6 months from now with a Vibe coding hangover where I have to pay a team $50,000 to fix a year's worth of messy AI code.
That's the day 2 fear, and it's very real. The only way to avoid that hangover is through test-driven vibing. It sounds technical, but it's actually very business-friendly. Instead of asking the AI to build the feature, you ask the AI to write the tests for the feature first. You say, based on my specs, write 12 tests that define what a successful login looks like. It should succeed with correct credentials, fail with wrong password, and show a timeout after 3 attempts.
Oh, I see. So you're setting the exam before the AI writes the essay.
Exactly. Once you approve the tests, then you say, now write the code that makes these 12 tests pass. This forces the AI to be precise. It can't take shortcuts because the tests will catch them immediately. It's like having an automated quality control inspector who never gets tired. If the AI's code fails its own tests, you don't even have to look at it. You just tell it, try again. 4 tests are still failing.
That feels like a huge safety net for a non-technical founder. It gives you a way to measure progress that isn't just, I hope this works.
It really does. And you should also set up non-negotiable gates. These are automated checks that run every time the code changes. For example, strict TypeScript. This is a setting that basically tells the AI you aren't allowed to be vague about your data types. If the AI tries to pass a name where it should be a number, the system will reject the code before you ever see it. It's like having a grammar checker for your business logic.
What about the user experience? Tests can catch logic errors, but can they catch a bad vibe in the design? Like a button that's the wrong shade of blue, or a layout that breaks on an iPhone?
That's where visual regression tools come in. You can ask the AI to write E2E, or end-to-end tests, using a tool like Playwright. These tests literally drive a virtual browser. They click the buttons, they scroll the page, and they take screenshots. If the Buy Now button disappears on a small screen, the test will fail and tell you exactly what happened. This is how solo founders in 2026 are able to maintain 30 or 40 different websites at once. They aren't checking them manually. They have a digital guard watching the vibe 24/7.
It's about building a pipeline that protects you. You're using the AI's speed to build the app, but you're also using its speed to build the defense system for that app.
Spot on. And for the listener who wants to graduate to production, look into Lighthouse CI. It's a tool that checks your site's performance and accessibility. If the AI generates a heavy, slow page that's hard for people with disabilities to use, Lighthouse will give you a failing grade. For a business, this is critical. You don't want to lose customers or face legal issues because your AI-generated site isn't accessible. You make it a rule. No code gets deployed unless it has a Lighthouse score over 90.
Okay, Eli, I'm sold. I want to try this. I have a business idea, or maybe just a really annoying spreadsheet I want to turn into a dashboard. Give me the action plan. If I start today, what do the next 7 days look like?
I love a good challenge. Let's break it down into a 7-day sprint. Day 1 is tooling and setup. Don't try to build anything yet. Just pick your home base. If you're a developer, install Cursor. If you're a total beginner, open a Replit account or go to bolt.new. Just get comfortable seeing the AI generate a Hello World page.
Okay, day 1, pick the tool. What's day 2?
Day 2 is the napkin spec. Choose one small, specific problem to solve. Not Amazon for dogs, but a searchable directory of local dog walkers. Write out your core features, your user types, and your definition of done. This is your North Star for the rest of the week.
Day 3?
Day 3 is scaffolding the shell. Use your tool to build the outside of the app. Get the layout, the colors, and the buttons looking right using fake data. Don't worry about the database yet. Just make it feel like the app you imagined. This is the vibe check day. If it doesn't look right, iterate until it does.
Day 4 is where it gets real, right?
Exactly. Day 4 is wiring the engine. Tell the AI to build the backend. Connect it to a simple database. Superbase is the 2026 favorite because it's so AI friendly. By the end of day 4, you should be able to type something into a form, click save, and see it stay there when you refresh the page.
Day 5, testing?
Day 5 is the stress test. Try to break your app. Enter numbers in name fields, leave everything blank. Use the explain first rule for every error you hit. Ask the AI to write a few basic tests to lock in the working parts. This is where you move from it works to it's reliable.
Day 6?
Day 6 is the polish and security review. Ask the AI to refactor for clarity and check for security vulnerabilities. Add your security sandwich, placeholder keys, and input validation. Make sure it looks good on your phone. This is the release engineering phase.
And day 7? The big launch?
Day 7 is ship and share. Deploy it. Most of these tools have a one-click deploy button. Send the URL to 3 friends or coworkers and watch them use it. Don't help them. Just watch. Note where they get stuck. Then go back to the AI and say, my users were confused by this button. Let's fix the vibe.
That feels incredibly doable. It turns this big, scary software project into a series of small conversational wins. It's about momentum.
It really is. And to everyone listening, the most common mistake is waiting for a big enough idea. Don't wait. Vibe code something stupid first. Build a sandwich randomizer or a mood-based color picker. The goal of your first week isn't to build $1 million company, it's to learn the loop. Once you master the describe, generate, iterate cycle, you'll start seeing vibe coding opportunities everywhere in your business.
Eli, this has been such an eye-opener. I started this thinking vibe coding was just a shortcut for people who didn't want to learn the real way to build software. But it sounds like it's actually a new discipline entirely. It's not just about coding, it's about architecting intent.
That's a beautiful way to put it. We're moving from an era of writing to an era of editing. In the past, the bottleneck was the typing, the syntax, the semicolons, the technical manual. Today, the bottleneck is your vision and your clarity. If you can describe a problem clearly and you have the judgment to recognize a good solution, you are now a software builder.
It's incredibly democratizing. It means the person with the domain expertise, the nurse, the teacher, the small business owner, can finally build the tools they've always needed. They don't have to wait for someone else to understand their problem. They can just solve it.
It's a democratization of creation. But as we've discussed, it comes with a new kind of responsibility. You can't just vibe and forget. You have to be the orchestrator. You have to care about the security, the testing, and the long-term health of what you're building. The AI gives you the exponentials, but you provide the values.
So, to our listeners, your next move isn't to sign up for a coding bootcamp. It's to pick one small problem in your work or your business, something that's been annoying you for months, and try to vibe a solution into existence. Start small, be specific, and don't be afraid of the red error messages.
Exactly. Those errors are just the AI asking for a better vibe. As we wrap things up, I want to leave you with one thought. The most successful business leaders of the next decade won't be the ones who know the most code. They'll be the ones who know how to orchestrate the most AI.
That's a powerful shift. Thank you so much for walking us through this, Eli. It's been a fascinating deep dive into a world that's changing literally as we speak.
It's been my pleasure. I'm genuinely excited to see what people build when the how finally gets out of the what.
For everyone listening, take a moment today to think about one process in your life that feels manual. How would you describe a solution for it to a very smart, very enthusiastic assistant? That's your first prompt. Thank you for joining us on this journey into vibe coding. We'll see how the vibes evolve.
Thanks for listening, and happy vibing.